All right. We're going to let this populate for a minute. We're going to let this populate for a minute. And then we're going to jump into tonight. All right, let's see here. We're going to give it a little bit longer. And then, okay, there's one. All right. Hello to those of you who are coming on. Share this with as many people as you can. I am sharing it in my chats. I'm sharing it wherever. This live can absolutely be a life changer. This can be a life changer. Let's share this. We're going to take probably about 2 more minutes. I'm sharing the text threads. I'm doing more sharing today for this one than normal. This is really very, very, very important what we're talking about tonight. It could really save lives. So let's take a couple more minutes to share. I'm going to get my water right here, right quick. And then we're going to, after we have a sharing party, then we are going to move forward. So just give me a couple minutes, and I want to give you a couple minutes also to share. Thank you all for coming on. Excuse me. Thank you for coming on from your various platforms. Let me see. I'm trying to find it on my own page. Okay, come on. Load here. Thank you all for coming on. We're going to give this a few minutes. We're not really rushing the coming on and sharing. It's just very important for us to be sharing this. So I see people are joining in from YouTube, joining in from Facebook. I'm not sure why my Facebook doesn't seem to be showing up here. Just give me a moment. But while I'm finding that, I'm going to be sharing on my text threads. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. Let's see how to do this. Okay, Lord, help me here. Okay. Let me know that you can see me and hear me, that we're still good here, and be praying over this tonight. I don't know why I can't seem to find this live on my Facebook or on my YouTube. So if you can give me a couple more minutes. I didn't think I'd take this long. Let me know that you all can still see me and hear me. Let me know that you can still see me and hear me. Okay, I guess I'll have to do it this way. All right, share now. Okay, good. I think I found a way to do it. Let's give this a couple more minutes, and then we're going to jump on. I'm trying to find the YouTube so I can share the YouTube. Thank you all for your patience with me. I probably should know how to do this stuff, but it ain't coming up. All right. Give me one more minute. Has everybody on shared so far? Hallelujah. Khalil, if you can send me the link to my cell phone. I don't know why it's not coming up on when I go to YouTube, so then I can share the link. Thank you all for your patience with me today. Thank you, Connie McGrosky, for sharing. Thank you, Jacqueline Walton, for sharing. Thank you, Melissa Barker, for sharing. Thank you, All Things Evans. That's my wife. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Khalil, for also sending it to my phone. So I'm just going to share it to several of my threads, like my family thread, and Defenders thread, different things like that. And I want to encourage you. Hello, greetings to you all coming on. Greetings to you all coming on, just sharing in a couple different places. Hallelujah. And then I think one more place, and then I think we'll be good. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. I know I said one more minute, but give me another one. I think I'm sharing one last place. All right. All right. If we can also let the ministry family know that we're on. And I think I'm ready to go now. Thank you all for coming on. As you're coming on tonight, please do share. Please do share. All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. All right. Thank you all for coming on. Again, as I said, as you're coming on, please do share. Thank you for your patience with me. I don't know why my phone was doing all that, but it was, and so we're working now. We're going to talk tonight about the times ahead. If anybody's been following my ministry for at least 6 months, by the grace of God, you know that God has been so gracious as to show me things to come. And so he's been speaking profusely over the last couple of years concerning things that we are now experiencing and things that we will experience. Actually, he's been talking to me about the destruction coming to this nation from 2017. From 2017. Can everybody just type in 2017? I think that does something to the algorithm as well as your sharing. So type in chat, communicate with me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, click the thumbs up. If you have not clicked the thumbs up, click the thumbs up. If you're watching from YouTube, if you're watching from Facebook, please do love this video, share, and be very interactive in the comments. We want to get this word out to as many people as possible. It could absolutely be the difference between life and death for people. Okay. And so nevertheless, the Lord's been talking to me about the destruction coming to this nation since 2014. I said 2017, 2014, 2017. There was a big pivotal prophecy concerning this nation that I want to share with you right quick. And then I want to share with you some of the things that he's been saying over the last couple of years that's going to lead us into what we're talking about tonight concerning storing up, stocking up, and preparing and the like. But since 2017, 2014 is when he started. 2017, he gave us this prophecy, and we are in these times, coming into these times. So this is a prophetic word from 2017, and this is all public. So this is not me making stuff up after the fact. I've said these words publicly before the time. So he said, prepare, prepare, prepare. I want you to hear this. It's about to get real bad real quick. The Lord has shown me tumult, intrigue, and uproar that will have an impact on this nation's food supplies. Listen to this. Because of discontent and unsettledness, as human nature is prone to, the Lord says, violence will erupt. The Lord says, but I am preparing you. He says, I want you to hear this. Pay close attention to me. Can everybody type that in? He wants us to pay close attention to him in these times. Pay close attention to me, he says. He says, this will be the refining. Miracles, signs, wonders, and miracle money will increase. So there's some hope in this. He says, I will take care of those who have taken care. She, the Ekklesia in America, he says, does not resemble me. I will strip her of her filthy garments, he says, and wash her as white as snow with pumice soap. He says, sobriety is required. Put away the board games and arise to a man's work. Those who do not prepare will be at a disadvantage. I want my people to have an advantage. And then he says, get to work. Okay. Again, he's been speaking to me about the destruction coming to this nation since 2014. I just read to you a prophetic word that I released publicly to our ministry in 2017 and have released multiple times since. Over the last couple years, however, he has been profusely laying the burden of the Lord on me concerning the things in this nation. By the grace of God, we've been able to prepare people for what has come and what will come. By the grace of God, he's given us forewarning to even the things that this nation is experiencing now. For example, even the planes falling out of the sky, he told us that in 2023. That was going to happen, along with some of the other things that we are seeing now. So those who are part of our ministry, those who are part of the remnant community, those who have been even part of Defenders, have been prepared. If you are part of any of those ministries and you feel like you have been prepared ahead of time, just type in, I've been prepared. I've been prepared. And so tonight I want to prepare people even the more. Now, those who are part of the ministry or those who are members of the Defenders Patreon, some of this information will be reviewed, but I thought it's so important to make this available to everybody on tonight, to make it public, even though on the Defenders Patreon, which is for men, sessions like these are on the Defenders Patreon. So if you are a man, you need to join Defenders. We are preparing men for intense, optimal Christian manhood in every dimension, from spiritual to prep to financial to relational to health and the like. So there are some strategy sessions and there's content on the Defenders Patreon that'll help you prepare for what's coming. And we're going to continue to release more, especially concerning relationships and spirituality. Also, so join the Defenders Patreon if you can. If you are a man, if you know a man, tell him to join the Defenders Patreon so that we can really walk together as optimal Christian men. It's pretty much my personal mentoring program for men. And for right now, it's located on Patreon. The information is actually scrolling at the bottom of your screen. I really want to encourage you if you're a man or if you are connected to men, we're especially going after this younger generation. I think that men need to be a part of Defenders. But this is some of what we do on Defenders, but I wanted to make it public on tonight. I see all of you, so many of you are saying that you've been prepared. And I feel so privileged to know that God has used me to help prepare people. Just so humbled, sometimes brought to tears to see how people have prepared, how people are ready. One woman sent me pictures of the grocery store that she has in her basement. Pretty much she's stocked up in her basement. She's transformed it into pretty much a food shelf and a stocking up place. And it just blesses me to see that people have heard and people have listened. Now, I want to also continue to prepare others. I see so many of you have been prepared. And we are continuing to stay close to the Lord, continuing to be prepared. Last year in March, the Lord started talking to me about 2025. He let us know ahead of time that it was going to be a year of judgment. He let us know that there was going to be chaos, that there was going to be anarchy. And he also let me know that famine was coming. And so I did, it was probably 1 or 2 hour live because the Lord had been dealing with me for about 5 hours that day. I think it was March 12th, 2024, when he started talking to me more so about 2025 and how the things that were going to happen in 2025. He also had shown us that Donald Trump was going to win and that he and his followers were going to prevail, and that he was using Trump as a scourge in this nation. And we've prepared people even with how to deal with that in these coming years. There's a strategy session also on Defenders. But part of that prophetic word for 2025 was concerning stocking up and storing up. And so what we want to do tonight is we want to help you particularly prepare in that area of stocking up and storing up. The Lord told our ministry in 2022, I believe it was, to create household storehouses. and to start stocking up. But in the prophetic word concerning 2025 that he gave us last year in March, I want to kind of dive into that. He's given us a little bit more detail in that prophecy from 2024 in March. And I want to share some of it. And then we're going to have Brother Terrence come on and help us to know how to stock up, how to preserve things. But let me read this first. Let me bring him on the screen, and then we're going to go from there. All right, Brother Terrence, if you can unmute yourself. All right, this is Brother Terrence. This is my partner here, one of my partners. And so he has been a blessing to my ministry, has been a blessing to Defenders. And he is one of those people that's prepared for such a time as this. And so I'm glad that he's on tonight to kind of give us some hands-on concerning how to stock up, how to store up, how to save up. I'm going to first go into the prophetic word concerning what to stock up on, and even the instruction to stock up. And then we want to maybe just kind of do it talk show style, go back and forth concerning then going through just giving people kind of a survey of how to stock up and preserve the things that the Lord is telling us to stock up on. Okay, you have some people saying, thank you, Brother Terrence, for helping us. I appreciate him. I do appreciate him. You know, I'm a wannabe country boy, but it's not really. I'm a city country boy, not really. That's just in my dreams. But in real life, I wish I had some of the natural skills that he has, but I'm learning them. And so I think it's a good thing that he has some of these natural skills, because it really helps what we do as Defenders, and it helps what we do as a ministry. And so he's going to help us with some of those natural skills. You know, I didn't climb trees with my bare feet when I maybe I did actually, but he just has a lot of expertise, and he's going to help us with some of the preserving and storing up. But I want to first read this word concerning what the Lord gave us last year about stocking up. He says, there's going to be a famine. Stock up. He tells us to create personal storehouses. Everybody type in personal storehouses. You need storehouses for your household. God's also going to have regional storehouses, but you need personal storehouses for your household. Thank you, Angela, for sharing with so many people, especially share with men. Y'all, especially share this with men and other men. Thank you, Angela, for sharing with so many people, because this is very important. So he says, you're going to need to create personal storehouses. And we're so glad that even though we've had these words for a while, that it seems that he's still giving us time to do it. All right. We're going to want to stock up on the following things: unprocessed and minimally processed grains and foods, dried meats, dried fruit, dried goods, meals that only require water and heat, vacuum sealed foods, battery powered and solar powered things. You're going to want to have basic survival skills, and that's something that we're going to continue to do even with Defenders. So again, a plug for the Defenders Patreon, encouraging guys to join it. It's a holistic mentoring program, but it also gives you some of these survival skills. Surviving without electricity, surviving without internet, without GPS, without hot water, etc. The Lord was showing us to train our families to do that. He was also instructing us, and he continues to instruct us in this, to not waste. No waste. Everybody type in, do not waste. Do not waste. Try to find ways to use it all, repurpose it all, or reuse it. Okay. So there is going to be a famine naturally, and there is going to be a famine spiritually. Just right quick, I want to go over some of the spiritual things to do, because that's the most important thing. Spiritually, you're going to need to stock up too. You're going to need to have household storehouses of faith and the word of God. You're going to need to keep oil in your lamps and pray without ceasing. You're going to need to stock up on the word. You're going to need to forsake not to assemble with the saints every opportunity that you have. The Lord was also showing us how paper copies of important documents are going to be important, even like Bibles, and how you should commit scripture to memory, scripture and prophecies to memory, because they're going to be able to alter scripture and have access to electronic versions of your files. Spiritually, he was telling us again, don't waste time, but to steward our time well. Be sure your family can survive spiritually, because the influence of the Antichrist system will be heavy and it will be everywhere. Okay, and just going forward, again, some of that, I don't know if some of that's this year, we'll see, but it absolutely is going forward. And so again, defenders prepares men, especially on that spiritual front, but on every front, preparing men. So you need to be a defender if you're a man, or if you know a man. I want Brother Terrence I just wanted to touch on some of the spiritual stuff. It is so important. I have videos of that, but tonight I want to really focus on the practical, stocking up and storing up and saving up concerning some of the things that I've said. Again, unprocessed, minimally processed grains and foods, dried meats, dried fruit, dried goods, meals that require only water and heat, vacuum sealed foods, battery powered and solar powered things. So Brother Terrence is here. He just got so much going on for him. We have a lot in common, except I was not as country as him. But when it comes to real estate, when it comes to, now he had a food truck. I want a food truck. So I'm hoping we'll collab and do that kind of stuff. He loves to cook. I love to cook. Our wives even have some of the same interests. We love souls. We're just evangelists, it seems, by nature. We have a lot in common. But this one area, he supersedes me in when it comes to really a lot of this practical stuff of how to stock up and store up. He has land in multiple places in Texas and his own homestead. He grows things. He has animals. He has not invited me over yet to partake of any of his I see I'm playing too much. I forgot what I was saying. But brisket, that's what I'm saying. But him and his wife grow things on their land, as well as animals. And so he's going to have some examples tonight, but I want him to help us to know how to stock up on and store up and save up on those things. So we'll just go back and forth, but the floor is yours. I'll interrupt you if I have any things to add or anything like that. But take it, Brother Terrence.
Amen. Amen. Well, Apostle, he pretty much covered the more important and crucial things, the spiritual aspect, and first our pursuing and making sure that our lamps we're stored up on the oil. And so that's going to be one of the things in the days to come that's more important, that's most important is, even having that mantle as the sons of Issachar, understanding the times and seasons and knowing what to do. And so as we go into these days ahead, we're going to have to be in a place where we hear from God, where we know, what to do next, how he's going to want us to move and flow. So as was introduced, is some some skills that pretty much is God in the whole midst of my life. Some of the stuff that we'll go over tonight is stuff where I was exposed to at an early age, growing up in East Texas. Grew up in an area of Henderson County, a little tiny town called Malakoff, and was there with my great grandmother. And she used to that was my first introduction to stuff like canning and preserving things and just having stuff on the shelves that would last and stuff that came from the land. She uh canned stuff from the garden. She, heck, that was the only. I mentioned one thing now: pickled peaches. Nobody don't know what that is, but it's something that she did, and it was excellent. And so, but canning is one of the main aspects that she did, and it's something as I grew up, it's something that I'd always had in the back of my mind. But of course, in 2020, when that shift happened, and all of the lockdowns happened, and the changes started coming, and uh, me, like many, was feeling that pull that, okay, things will never go back to the same, and started thinking differently about some things. And I know many of you can probably remember times where during 2020 and trying to go to the stores, and the frenzy and the panic, and you couldn't find stuff on the shelves, or from the
Started
toilet
thinking
paper and the
differently
water
about.
to the food. And so I remember, and we were staying in an area, East Houston at the time, Channelville,
Things, and
and trying to go to certain places where when we needed to restock. And we're pretty good about keeping canned goods. That's just something that we do. That's something I grew up doing. But uh, when we wanted to restock on some things, and in the midst of all of that going on, we wanted to go and really uh, uh, see where we can find stuff to restock. But in crisis, people are trying to preserve, and you got people that are basically hoard,
Yeah.
and you won't find what you need. And so I remember that time, we're in the city and town, you couldn't really find anything for extended periods of time. There was a lot of stuff that was gone, and only time that we would find certain things is where when we would go to East Texas, go way out in the country, because that's where uh, we had property up that way. And we go up there and visit, and some of the stores, up there would still have things. But along with this, and during this period, it's also when me, like many others, started to feel a pull. We need to start considering doing things different. Things was changing. There was things that was coming. So um, I started getting animals. That's something that I did too growing up. Started getting into the animals. I'm like, and I started growing stuff. I always have grown things. Had a green thumb, so I had pots and stuff at home, was growing. But out there in Channelview, we didn't have a lot of space. We Them little chicks we hatched out and was raising. One of them grew up to be a rooster, and we like, okay, we got to get out of town. But at that time, we was already looking, because the area was starting to change anyway. So as Apostle was talking about, you know, uh, going ahead in the days ahead, anarchy and things where when people get desperate. And so where we
Mhm.
were at the side of town where we were, it wasn't a bad area, but things started to, really change. And, it was some times of desperation. The crime and stuff started picking up. And for a
Wow.
long time anyway, I've been feeling the pull to get back, out on the outskirts. I started getting that nudge, and I just knew that, okay, it's time for us to get out, at least on the outskirts, because we knew that in town it was ministry in Houston, so we couldn't go way out, but wanted to get out on the outskirts. So we started searching. We found a spot out here, just about 50 minutes north of downtown. We're on the outskirts of Houston, and we were just looking for some space where we can grow our own things. And we was content with just an acre, 2 acres. That's kind of what we was looking for. And so we found a place, came out here. But while all this is going on, and as he was talking about the prophetic, many of us, anyone that's saved and got the Spirit of God, and we knew that things were coming and it was a shift. So uh, it was. We started basically making preparations. So the can and all of this stuff started coming back up, and like, this is stuff I need to get back into. It's stuff that I've been exposed to, stuff that I knew, stuff that I was taught. So decided to go and get a pressure canner, because I'm like, okay, if we're gonna move out here and grow all of this stuff, uh, how are we gonna preserve it? And so was really, my great grandmother had the old school pressure canners, and so doing research. If you look into that kind of stuff, that some of the old school ones, if the right measures wasn't taken because of how they're used, things can happen, if you don't know what you're doing. Is accidents and stuff can happen. It can be dangerous. So just really got into digging into that. and made an investment. I started changing how we were spending money, so I started making investments in things, that would last. So I invested in a pressure canner. I will show this big jalopy here. This is something that I purchased, and this is an all-American pressure canner. It has a little gauge, and this thing here is like a weight. For anyone that has any experience canning, um, depending on the elevation that you're at, and you know, you can look into all kind of stuff. When you get the can, they got information on it that'll tell you how to use it. But we're here around the Houston area in the southeast. We're at low elevations. If you're at high elevations, all of this stuff is going to play into effect on how you uh, uh, can stuff and the
So
pressure
tell
and
us
all
the
of that.
brand of this one again.
Say that again.
Tell us the brand of this one. What's
This
the
is the All American, I believe, All American pressure canner. Uh, and so I think I got this one. Heck, this one probably was on eBay. I mean, they sell them on eBay. And this one was one of the brands. This one is it? I believe 15-gallon or something like that. I think they got 20 gallons, 10 gallons, or whatever. And so I can get so many cans in this. So like I said, I wanted to start preserving some of the stuff that we was growing, and hanging on to it because you can grow stuff and you got seasons to grow things. Like right now while it's cool, out back we got greens. And greens they grow good during the winter months. And so as it starts to warm up, the bugs gonna start eating them greens up. They're gonna start flowering to make seed, and they'll die back. And you're gonna go and plant something else. So we wanted to preserve the stuff that we were growing. So this canner, we got this to preserve some stuff. Now, when you're getting in the cannon, and I'll show you some jars in a minute. But going back to this little weight, I don't know if you can see the numbers on it. It's numbers on here. You got 15, 10, 5. So for somebody that's in low elevations like us, when you're canning, you're gonna use this 10 gauge. If you're somewhere in the mountains and higher elevations, you'll use uh, like like 5 or something like that. But this poundage, this kind of lets you know, it helps with the pressure buildup that you're gonna need at that elevation that you are to seal those jars. I'll show you the inside of this as I take it now. This top, you'll see these little latches and stuff on it. That's one of the safety mechanisms I was talking about. And those little latches, they fit over these, and you would basically let those down. It would hold that lid in place because there's going to be so much pressure in this pot. If there's nothing to hold it in place, that top can blow out, basically explode because it's going to be so hot, so much pressure. In the bottom of this thing, this is a rack. So those jars are not sitting bare on the bottom of the pan where that heat is going to cause those jars to bust. So you need a rack inside. Now, you won't fill this pot up, and I went straight into this talking about it because I want to show you some of the stuff and why we was canning, how we can, and just the kind of the process and procedure. But this being the biggest thing, and when we chose to get it, I just wanted to kind of go into this a little bit, how it works. So if anyone is thinking about getting a canner, a pressure canner, just so you will have an idea of how it's going to work and how you're going to do it. You can't just I'm gonna get some jars and stick them in the pot and just start, boiling. They don't work like that. So, but there's a separation because this thing is about so thick that the bottom of the jars won't touch the bottom of the pan because it's going to be extremely hot, and those jars can break if it's direct contact. So you can get so many jars, and depending on the size, and I'll get into the size in a minute, but you can get so many jars in here, and you want to cover just over the lid of the jars with water, and then you will let those jars, uh, and you will seal it, and you will seal it once it comes to a boil and it gets hot, and then you will seal it and cover up the little protective devices to basically get that process started. Now that gauge on there, we want a can in this area at about 250 pounds of pressure, and depending on what it is. So we'll get into some of the things that typically that pressure can is going to be best for. Um, a lot of people can the vegetables. We were just talking about the greens. Um, this is a small can of mustard greens. Uh, and basically, I'll get into some of the different size jars as we talk about the canning and stuff. But this is pretty much a little. This is a 16-ounce jar, I believe. Yeah, 16s. We got the 12s. We got 8s, the little small ones, and so all the way up to 32 size jars, and it's just depending on what you're going to use. So I use these pretty much the 12s for uh, the little 12s and the smaller jars for my vegetables and stuff. And I'll load that canner with those. And just going into some of the ways that I do it with these greens, for instance. On one of the lives that we did, we talked about how we're going to can greens. A green being a big leafy vegetable. And for those of you whose mothers or some of you cook greens, we soak those greens, wash them several times, get all of the grain and the grit and the dirt off of them. And so once they're good and clean, we would partially boil the greens in a pot so they would become soft. And then you would use, I have a lid right here, I'll show you. You would use something like this to put those greens and anything else into the jar so you won't get anything on the lids. And so basically we'll stuff those jars to about 1 inch below the lid, and then we'll put the lip of the jar, we'll put the lids on. This is a regular size jar lid. You can get a couple of different sizes. You got the wide mouth and you got the regular size. This is the wide mouth. And you can order these lids. These are ball lids. When you're canning and trying to preserve stuff, canning is going to be one of your best methods because you got wet canning, you got dry canning. And we're going to go into some of those methods. But just because we got started with the greens, of course, we know that's wet canning. And so it's something where you're putting a cooked vegetable or a semi-cooked vegetable. You're going to finish cooking it inside the pressure canner. So to partially boil it is to just make the leaves soft enough to pack as many as you can inside of this jar. And then once you get them started, then you put a new lid. You put a lid on it. They separate. So you put the lids on. An empty jar. This is an empty jar to show. Put those lids on, and you put the lid covers basically and seal that on finger tight. And then whatever you're sealing in that jar, you fill them in that pressure canner, and then you will fill that up for vegetables. So when you get the pressure canner, this is gonna be a help to you because it's gonna have, if you can in vegetables, how long or the recommended time for whatever you're canning. So that's gonna help for anybody that's new to it. You kind of get the feel or the idea if you learn from grandma, or if or once you've been doing it for a while, you're gonna kind of pick that up where you don't need it. But when you get those canners, the pressure canners, it's gonna have instructions. So for vegetables, it can be so long. It's not going to be as long, as, for instance, if you want to preserve meat, you can preserve meat as well. And so with these cans, these 12-ounce jars, we pretty much pressure can a lot of our vegetables, a lot of our greens, cabbage, and all of that stuff, and pack as many of those jars as possible. And then, say for instance, if a jar this size, you're gonna do something maybe like 70 minutes or something, and it's gonna cook them the rest of the way. You can, but just for your recommendations based on your preference, how you like it. I mean, however you like your vegetables. I like a little seasoning in my greens. So before you seal that stuff, I put salt. They got canned salts, little onion. You can put that stuff in there. And same thing with anything that you're canning. Season it, seal it up. So, but you want to do all of that before you can. and before you seal it and put it in the canner and pressure can it, because once it's done and it's sealed, it's sealed until you're ready to eat whatever's in that jar.
About how long
The reason
shelf life for for those grains? About how long would the shelf life be for the grains versus like something like meat?
from what I would use, I mean, heck, you can probably keep them on the shelf just like canned goods. Heck, probably a couple of 2-3 years with the greens, on the shelves. Uh, and heck, I got some greens from last year still on the shelf. And you go heat them up and just as good. Just heating them up. So that's just for the greens, and that's one of the things that we grow. Also, with the meats, these are drumsticks, chicken legs. So you're gonna go the same way, but just for precautions with any meat, you want to cook that, thoroughly. So, like I said, that the pressure canner is gonna have the recommendations for canning meats or vegetables. Meats in a jar this size, typically, that gauge that you saw on that lid over there, once it peaks and hits the 250 mark, you pressure canning at 250 for like 90 minutes for meat. It's going to kill anything. Because one of the things or one of the risks that you will deal with canning, if you don't can right, and stuff that's not acidic, something like meats and stuff, is botulism. It can make you real sick, and it's even been cases of people being taken up out of here because if you don't do it right. And the spores from that, they can live on any surface for extended periods of time, and it takes certain temperatures to kill those spores. And so this is why you want to make sure you're doing it the right way. You're canning it for so much time, and it's going to kill at those temperatures and that length of time. Is going to kill any possibility of any spores for botulism in those jars, and then it's going to seal those jars that nothing else can get in those jars, and anything that was in those jars, the heat, the temperature, and the length of time killed any types of spores that was in there. So this is why it preserves for so long. When you're preserving stuff, one of those things, some of the main things that would cause food to go bad, number one is light, moisture, and that's really for dry foods. But then spores, stuff that would get in meats and stuff like that, and that stuff could make you real sick. So canning, don't just jump in and like, okay, well, you don't like to read, but I'm just gonna go in there and try it, and keep something for a while, and it's not sealed right, something can get in there. But like I said, these probably was canned probably about 2 years ago, and this is probably the last one from that length of time ago, where probably got to finish it off. But we used some not too long ago, made chicken soup with them, shredded them and put them in some soup, so still just as good as when they went in that can. And so I got stuff here like that's wild turkey from a turkey hunt. And those are some of some of the wet items, the meat items that you want to preserve. And one of the things we talked about on one of the sessions in the past is for the people, like when you have the outages, say for instance, you're going through a storm or something like that, or a hurricane. I heard so many people where they lost power, and after 2 or 3 days, and I don't know if they kept opening the refrigerators. For us, most of the stuff kept frozen for the first couple of days. But after a few days, they threw out everything in that freezer and got rid of it, or whatever. And then some people looking for vouchers to replace or pay for food. And the thing is, it's ways to preserve that food. If something was to happen where we wouldn't have power for an extended period of time to preserve the meats and stuff in the freezer, I mean, why not can it?
Mm.
And especially if it's someone like, it's different if you're in a place where you just have electric and no gas. Out here, that's another reason we moved out here. In our old house, everything was electric, the stove tops and everything. If you're in that kind of situation, it's good to get one of those griddles or something like that, and the propane tanks to hook to it, so you will have it and have a means to cook and get a flame hot enough to be able to can. But we moved out here, so we had propane, pretty much gas stove where we can do all this stuff on stove top. Uh, so if we don't have power, we can still cut our stove on because we got propane stove out here, and we can do our canning and stuff. So if stuff was gonna go bad, this last hurricane that we had, and we was out of power for about a week, and you know, uh, fortunately, that's another session, but we didn't have to worry about stuff thawing out, But for people that's in that predicament, rather than wasting all that food and throwing it out, if you're worried about the meat going bad and you got cans, mason jars ought to be ones. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, mason jars ought to become your best friend. Every time we go to the grocery store, I'm going to throw a box of mason jars. Depending on the size that I use most, I'm gonna throw that in the at the bottom of the cart and just purchase them and just have some around. And so I got boxes of mason jars all around here, and so we'll have them in case of an emergency like that, and we need to preserve some stuff to keep something from going bad. So just that pressure canner and just having those instructions, we can keep our meat. If it's something that you've had in the freezer for a long time, for uh, whatever that recommended time is, and you still don't want it to go bad, okay, take it out. I got some venison in the freezer that I probably go get, and I'll take it, cut it up, and I'll stick it all, cut that meat up, stick it in here. These legs, drumsticks, when I put in here, it was just plain. I didn't put any liquid in here or anything. I just shoved after I washed the drumsticks. I shoved as many as I could to pack in this jar. Put the lid on it like I just explained. Sealed it and put several jars of drumsticks in the pressure canner and canned them for about 90 minutes. And then all of that natural juice, that fat, that broth from the chicken cooks out, and that's just what's in it, what it preserves in as well. So they make its own juices, and you have that stuff stored up. And so that's something we wanted to do, just to hang on to some stuff, where we can hold on to food and preserve it a little bit longer. So if something happens, we wasn't wasting so much food, and if we want to clear out the freeze, if we're going to restock it with fresh stuff. And we had something in there. Okay, we had something in our vacuum seal for a year or two. When you vacuum sealing stuff, and we'll kind of get into that shortly, the vacuum sealing. But if you've had some meat in there and you like, okay, I've had it in here for a while, well, I can get a little bit more time out of it if I take it and I pressure can that stuff. Now, switching from the meats and the greens, the vegetables that we preserve, because this is stuff where we actively grow, or we actively want to process, stuff that's very perishable. But when you start getting into talking about stuff like the grains and stuff like that, or the beans and stuff like that, and in some of the sessions we talked about in the past, we grow stuff like we grow corn, we grow beans. One of the things we really like to grow around here is like purple hull peas. That's what all of these are. And when you so the next type of canning that we typically will get into is the dry canning. And so to do the dry canning, these are purple hull peas, and I'm going to plant some of these in the spring. But those that we don't eat, because we try to plant enough where when they're growing, and I'll let some stick on the stalk a little bit longer till they dry out, and it's those that I'll grow. When we're not going to eat those and it's excess, we'll stock this stuff up, fill it up in a jar. Make sure your jars are clean. That's before anything, whether you're preserving meat, wet goods or dry goods. Make sure that those jars are clean and sterilized in hot water. But when you're doing dry goods, you want to make sure that those are dried out, they're clean. You put something in like these peas, and they'll serve a dual purpose when you can, save them. We filled this up. I could either soak these in water and cook them, let them rehydrate, soaking them in water, or let them stay just like this. And in the springtime, go out there, till the ground up, and plant some more rows of purple hull peas to get more of them. And so getting into the dry canning, Going back to this, the same method with the jars. Once I pack everything that I want in those jars, after I've cleaned them out, I got jars of corn here. I got jars of wheat, but basically pack it all in here about an inch below the lid. You want some headroom in there. And so I have this gadget here. I'll show you shortly. In doing that, I really don't put the lids on it unless I'm moving stuff around. But I just put that lid. I don't put the lid caps on. But I got this vacuum sealer, this little gadget right here. It's called a Seeker Plus. You can probably find it on Amazon or eBay or something. But this, it fits right over the lid of this jar. And I did a demonstration on one of the other sessions, but this is an empty jar. So, I mean, I can still seal it just to show you. But if I had something in here, you know, that I wanted to preserve, I would put that over the top. And then I would basically, it's a little button on top of this. Once it's secured over the top, where I can just spin it around, and this little button here, I would hit that. It's making a little sound. It's actively sucking the air out of this jar. Now, if it's something in here, this will probably go a long time because it's empty. So I ain't gonna go all the way with it, but just to turn it off. But if I was actively sealing something in here, I would let this pump all of that, suck all of the air out, and it would, once it's completely sucked out, you would hear a little pop. When all of the air is out of there, the lid would be sealed on top of this jar. Once all of the air is taken out, when all of the air is out of there, because that's one of the things I was just about to get into, like the air, moisture, pests like bugs, your weevils, and all of that kind of stuff. They need air to breathe. And once you put your grains in something like this and suck all of that air out, there's no oxygen in there. They can't live in there. So I don't have anything that's been dry canned or dry sealed in one of these jars that's ever had weevils in it or anything else or whatever. But you can store these on the shelves. I got some stuff up there that's 2 years old. Like I said, I try to use the older stuff, after so long. But you want to preserve your seeds and want to keep them fresh, you can dry seal them in here. So stuff like beans, you got stuff like corn. This is a big jar of corn. This is a 32-ounce jar. That's all dried corn. I can stick this corn in the ground in the spring, grow some more corn, or I can grind this corn, have cornmeal, grind it up, and cook something with it, or bake something with whatever I need to do, or soak it until it's soft and boil it, whatever ways that you like to cook corn. But right now, all of this dry corn, I did the same thing. And just to show you, this is a larger jar that you see. It got a larger lid. Oops. I got several gadgets down here, so set that on top. But these are different size lids. So this is the regular lid. This is the wide mouth, like the lids that I just showed you a while ago, and these wide mouth lids. So once this was sealed, all of the air is sucked out. The lid is pretty much locked on. You hear that popping sound, and it'll stop sucking, and that'll last until you pop it off and get ready to use it for something. Like I said, so I got the corn, I got wheat. Same thing. Some of this wheat, I ground it up and make flour and make biscuits or some bread or whatever, or whatever I need to do with it. But this is wheat, and I'll plant some of this wheat as well and grow some more wheat. So, go ahead.
When your harvest comes, and this is spiritual too, when your harvest comes, you eat some, you give some, and then you save some.
Absolutely.
So
like
you, and I like that as a natural and a spiritual principle. You don't eat all the seed, you save some, and then some you replant. So that's the giving part. You like it's same with spiritual. Some of what God gives me is for me to use, others is for me to save, and then others is for me to give, to resow. So that's what he's doing with some of the seeds. What's the shelf life on vacuum sealing?
This vacuum sealing, I mean, this stuff is gonna last. This wheat, this will last forever. Stuff like this, that's gonna last forever without that air in it. I mean, they still grow wheat from
Yeah,
grains that they found
it's in
like in
the pyramids. Yeah. So
absolutely.
thousands
So
of years
as
ago.
long as
Just so y'all know, when you get that air out, that's
yeah,
good.
yeah, because the air is a thing that's if something can breathe and survive in there and live, and it's eggs in this stuff, it's eggs in the wheat from the insect and the hatch out in there. That's why y'all had them weevil outbreaks in your cabinet. If you got that bag of flour in the back of it that you ain't touched, done something with in a while, it's eggs and stuff like that, and grains and stuff. So, which is while we'll cook them. But these will last forever. This corn will last pretty long too. I mean, so the vegetables, that's a whole different thing. Those are the seeds rather, the grains, the seeds, all that stuff will last. These red beans, folks that like red beans and rice. And these are something, I'll cook some, I'll grow some. Same thing. So I got all kind of stuff that's stored. Uh, these are tomatoes that I grew. Now, tomatoes, that's a little different. You stuff like that you want to use. I got something up there called citric acid. I put a little bit of that in there. And like I said, those instructions will be in there in that pot. But this is the stuff, they got. You can buy you a little kit like that. And they got those instructions. My grandmother, great grandmother, was doing this stuff because this is how she was taught to do it. And she would preserve all of this stuff, and she just knew it naturally and what needed to go and what and how much and stuff. So you'll know that you'll learn that over time, if because there's been such a gap between generations, where this isn't done. We'll flash in the pan, fly by night generation. We gonna go run and get what we want right then, and we ain't thinking long term. But now
I mean,
the
we got to.
distribution that
We
we're
got
in,
to think long term.
yeah, we do.
There's
We
nothing
do now.
reliable.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just something that we pretty much got to get back to. So, like I said, the canning has been one method, that's really helped us preserve a lot of stuff. This is flour. That flour will last in there forever. Want to make bread or something later. If stuff is scarce. Flour has been one of the main things, that people have lived on. That's what they're
Absolutely.
going to buy from Joseph, the wheat, the grain, the flour, and stuff in Egypt. So, you got that kind of stuff, and you can preserve that, preserve the shelf life. This is oatmeal, and so, you like oatmeal, those things that you want to preserve. It's just stuff that you have and you want to preserve the life of it, the extended life of it. I've seen people that actually they preserve their snacks. I've seen people get cookies and put in a jar and they'll seal it.
Terrence, you be doing that?
I ain't done it. I ain't
Terrence.
done it. I know
Oh,
others. I ain't done it, but I know people that do it. But yeah, they get their
mhm.
cookies and put in her. So they got their little snacks and their goodies on their homesteads, and they want to preserve it. It'll keep the weevils, the mice out of their stuff. But this is one of the better ways to preserve it. And so, you got your little snacks, your chips, all that kind of stuff. You can preserve anything and keep it fresh for a longer period of time. So mason jars can be your best friend, when it comes to wanting to keep things. So for all of y'all that like to panic when something happened and you go hoard everything off the shelves when and then later on and stuff go back to normal and like what I'm gonna do with all this stuff. Okay, well you want to extend it for a period of time, the shelf life, go and store some of that stuff up and you will last it and keep it for a longer
You got these
period.
people on here talking about this highly processed stuff that I tell people not to have a lot of. Sister Sheila talking about she got candy, and then Gibbs is talking about snacks. Let me remind y'all of one of the words is try to avoid highly processed foods. Now, don't get me wrong, I have some nice stuff every now and again. But if we can avoid highly processed foods, that'll be good for us. going forward.
That's just
Now,
a hint, because some of y'all still sneaking.
yeah, but you know, everything in moderation, right? But uh, there are some questions. But before we get to any questions, I saw the vacuum sealer, I think.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
Okay.
did. Let me see. So this is something, this vacuum sealer, and it's the same thing, you know. Uh, I mostly use the vacuum sealer to put things and store things up in the freezer, but you can store dry stuff with it and it still be just as fine. But this is the one that I use. Uh, and I got this off of eBay, I believe, eBay or Amazon. Uh, and it got several options on here. You know, you can do dry goods, you can do moist goods, and it'll suck all the moisture out of it along with the air or whatever. So I use this one, and I got some. Let me see if I can lower this down. So I was gonna do something, but where I kind of store up some broccoli. These are some of the bags that I use. You can get bags that's already cut, but I order them in bulk. So I got a lot of these. These are the shorter rolls. Some of them are longer like this, but I got a lot of these and I've stored stuff up. So let's see. I got broccoli here that's already stored up. I vacuum sealed this broccoli.
And
This
then you
is
froze it.
recent. Say that again.
You vacuum sealed it, then froze it.
Yes. Yes. So this is broccoli. I vacuum sealed and put it in the freezer. Uh, This is squash, yellow squash. Now, the way that we cook it, I didn't mind it being stuck together. But for those of y'all that like to buy frozen vegetables, you know, and you want it separated, there's a way to do that. You can get you a cookie sheet, you cut up your squash, stick it in the freezer on the cookie sheet, let it freeze, and then put it in your little bags, your vacuum seal bags, and you know you can cook it any way you want to, just like if you were buying frozen squash at the store. This is a little piece that I closed now. I mean, that I cut off. It's open on both ends right now because it's a roll. It's an open roll, and so you cut it. And like I said, I got all kind of stuff in there that's frozen. I got bell peppers that we grew, and you know when we're making chilies and stuff, I take that stuff out and throw it all in the pot. You know, I'll cut up onions.
And then I know we're not getting to everything tonight, audience, but then there's also um, um, dehydrating. And I know you talked about that. I think we have that on the Defenders Patreon about the dehydrating and then even rehydrating when you're ready to use. Just all these different ways of preserving. And the Lord wants us to stock up. And I know this is great information, but we really want to understand that this is actually information that we're going to need to use. We're not getting on this live tonight just to we are men, you know, not to just to be like, well, this is what men do. No, this is really something that's going to have to be done.
Yeah.
There are some really, if you think it's bad now, it's going to get worse. There are some really tough times coming. And just like God raised up Joseph to help preserve Egypt and the Israeli bloodline, God is raising us to do the same thing in this context. So this is not one of those, this is great information. No, this is going to preserve us. This is one of the things that is going to preserve us. These things are based off of prophetic words. These other words have happened. So we know that the other ones that he said will happen will. And part of what he wants is his people to survive and to thrive. And so again, on the Defenders Patreon, which is just for men, we have several strategy sessions on there. We plan to do more for every dimension, but including this prep. I have a couple questions from people on here that I want to ask you right quick. And then again, this was just meant to be a survey overview to get people started. More content is on Defenders, and the link is scrolling at the bottom of your screen, as well as I'm going to actually put it in the chat box. Also, there's given information there too. Feel free to sow tonight, but the Defenders information is on there also. Here's a question. Somebody said, should we assume that we have to prepare by an estimated time? Well, I guess that's more a prophetic question. I'm just grateful that God has given us time to still be able to do this, to still be able to prepare. I'd say continue to prepare until you can't prepare anymore. so, I don't. The Lord hasn't shown me any sort of time after which, but I do know um, that land is very important to get, and if you can get some as sooner than later, uh, that'll be a good thing, and start planting things in the light. Um, Somebody else said another question was, somebody was told vinegar was useful for canning. Is citric acid better than vinegar?
I've not used vinegar. I'm gonna use either using the salt or citric acid. Now, I've heard lemon juice as well. I've never used the vinegar. That's never been a method. I didn't see my great grandmother using vinegar. So, as far as which would be better, I really need to look into vinegar a little bit more because these are the things that I know: the citric acid and even, like I said, the lemon juice and stuff like that. That's something I'd have to look into. I've not used vinegar.
Another question, and this is partially addressed before: do you parboil the vegetables first? So when you're pressure canning, do you parboil the best vegetables first?
For the greens and stuff, and that's pretty much mostly what I can. I do. I do that because when I parboil them, it just I can get more in a can. It's to kind of shrink
Mhm.
them down a little bit so I can
Yeah.
I can get more in a jar, rather than I break up a stiff green, a hard leafy
Yeah.
green, and I break it up and I stuff it all in there and pack it out, and you think it's packed, and then you seal it up, you put a little liquid or whatever you're gonna put in there, you seal it. By the time it all shrink down, it's about that much in the jar. So to parboil it, you can stack more inside, and it's gonna soften up those leaves where they're flexible and you can get more in.
Thank you for that. Then we have another question. What methods do you use for off-grid refrigeration?
But
What
off
methods
grid
do you
work.
use for off-grid refrigeration? Let me see where that content is. Here we go. Oh, sorry, right here. Oh, that's not the right one. I'm sorry. There we go. For off-grid refrigeration. And really that goes into two. I thank God for living in Houston because it helps you to be prepared for whatever. So I feel like we have an advantage in Houston because of hurricanes and different things. You kind of have to be ready to survive without power. So it's just kind of second nature for Houstonians, but people around the rest of the country have not necessarily had that kind of advantage. And so I know just tell people what you did this last, because you all were without power way longer than us. What did you do when you were without power, and that could be related to off-grid refrigeration?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll answer that dually. So what we did with that, but with the off grid, so w- out here where we are, of course, we're obviously not off grid. We got electric out here and stuff, and so and we it's more rural, but it's not off grid. We would be on our place in Northeast Texas for that. But for refrigeration, I know basically how they did that when my folks didn't have it back then, back in the day, and down here in Houston, it's hard to do something like this because you can't really have a cellar down here, a root cellar. Now you can do things like kind of create certain circumstances and situations where I've heard people like having baskets and they mound around it or whatever because they will put stuff in the ground to keep stuff cool. And a
Mhm.
root cellar was like that. Like up in our place, Northeast Texas, is hilly up there. We can have a cellar up there. And so for stuff like that to preserve stuff, your vegetables and stuff in the ground, uh, for stuff like freezing, you really couldn't do. Now back in the day, they used to would sell like big blocks of ice and put in there and stuff like that. But that's not something that we do today. So that's why I recommended the meats and stuff like that to can that stuff. If it's you're in an instance where you don't have the means to keep that stuff cool or preserved, canning it is going to be the best way. My people used to smoke stuff back then, put it in a smokehouse and salt it back in the day. So that's how they did stuff. I've not had to do that. But for us, what you were just asking us for with the storm, because we was about 7 or 8 days with no power out here. And around that time when feeling the shift and I knew a lot of this stuff was coming, what we did is one of the things I started doing, I started investing in something called a jerry can. In those jerry cans, I started storing up,
Not a Jerry curl.
not a jerry curl, a jerry can. And I don't have one in here. I got one on the porch, but it's heavy. And we would store gas in those things. But non-ethanol gas, not your regular go to the pump, and because that that won't last as long. We would store non-ethanol gas because I knew this is just something that it was just on me to do. Like start storing gas, you're gonna need it. And then a couple of years later, we went and invested in a good generator, and so we got a generator that was strong enough to power our house. My wife went and got it for me. She brought me this heavy thing.
God bless Marsha. I'm telling you, Marsha, y'all,
Yeah.
his wife know how to work on cars, and I'm telling you,
She was doing electric work today.
and she's a lady, so you wouldn't guess unless somebody told you.
She got a cap on, and yeah, so she was doing some stuff today. But yes, this is a jerry can. This is a 5.2 gallons, and I got gas, non-ethanol gas stored up in here with stabilizer. You can keep it over 2 years, and it's just as strong. And so I invested.
My little sister says your wife is very pretty too. She is. She's
Man. I agree. No, it's not.
We got some pretty wives. So my wife.
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so, and so, but with the jerry can, so I invested in a generator, and this one was strong enough. You can kind of research this based on the size of your house, the wattage you need. I mean, to power your house. And I invested in a generator, and then I went and I had a generator plug added to my breaker box outside of my house. Uh, and actually, I break the boxes inside of the house, but I had a plug stuck on the outside of the house, connected into the breaker box, so that I can go plug a generator into it. So when the power from the main grid or the power lines is off or anything happen, because we had a massive tree, most of the trees we kind of in the woods up here. Most of the trees, the big trees fell and knocked a lot of power lines down, and so most of us was without power for a long time. And so I'm knowing that this stuff is coming, and so we made those investments. Like I was saying earlier, we started making investments where we knew we was gonna need stuff because of what was coming. And so when the hurricane came and knocked all the power out, then I changed. Go in the breaker box. It's a little switch where you change it from the mains that's running into the house from the power lines. I switched that off, and you can move up a little bracket, and you switch on the mains that's connected to the generator. You had a generator running, and then it powered the whole house. And so basically, we kept our refrigerators cold, our freezers, our stuff in the freezer frozen, and it was a lot of people that was trying to run generators doing that, and that's why in a lot of places in Houston you couldn't find gas because everybody's trying to run generators. I mean, a lot of people was coming way out close to us. They're going out to Dayton. Dayton was one of the few places that had gas, and there was lines wrapped around the corners for people trying to get gas and buying out all of the gas to keep refilling generators. But I started filling those jerry cans the end of 2020 or the spring or some of 2021, and I started storing. Actually, some of those that I just used for the storm is what I stored way back in 2021, and that gas ran that generator like a charm. And so we kept it powered, and in the warmest part of the day, as things started to warm up, then that's when we would run the generator so we can run the AC in the house, and let it run all day till nightfall, and when it run out, and then we go to sleep. So we wasn't as inconvenienced during the weather when as many people was. We was able to keep our food preserved and keep the house cool. because we made those provisions, to be able to run a generator and have a generator plug with a big 50 volt cord that runs from the generator and plugs into the plug outside. And so you do some research into that kind of stuff. So for the future outages, there will be future outages, but making sure that you have those kind of things. I know a lot of people now they talking about, I'm going to invest in a generator. Make sure that it's strong enough to power your house, or at least the main things in your house that need power. You don't have to have on every breaker in the house, and you can preserve some stuff or whatever. But then if you can run a freezer and maybe a light here and there, something that's strong enough to do that, and then run your generator and get the plug. This is a plug. The plug. She just brought me this plug, but this is a plug that runs from my generator and that goes into the generator hookup on the outside of the house, and we power our whole house. And so that was just based on the discernment where the Lord led us to do and make those changes and those switches because of what was coming. And so because we got kids, and my kids, I don't want to call them lightweights, but they can't take like me. I could be out in the heat and stuff like that, or I could, be in the dark. Like you saying earlier, I grew up in the country. I grew up different. My kids are like a lot of kids are. The generation that like tablets and video games, and so roughing it really ain't their thing. And so I had to think of something or be prepared to make things a little bit easier for them through the storm. So I'm still storing up after the storm, and we use about 4 or 5 of those jerry cans. I went and filled them right back up right when the storm was over, and I didn't make a dent in the gas that I had stored. Yeah, but I used the oldest, and I went and restocked up on gas, and I ordered some more jerry cans. So just think of stuff like that. Just consider, just to be on the safe side. If something don't happen, well, you can use the gas in your lawnmower or something like that. But or if you,
sell it,
yeah,
for a
yeah,
little cheaper than the one down the street.
yeah. But just take precautions, But that's how we got through the storm. So it wasn't as bad for us, even though we was without power. So just thinking about stuff like that.
I'm going to throw you these 2 more questions, and we'll try to wrap up in the next few minutes. But can you use the pressure cook option on an instant pot or to pressure cook jars? So, like when you have I don't know, when you have like a device like a Ninja or something that has like an air crisp option or pressure cook option, can you use the pressure cook option to pressure cook jars?
I think that's because I think those get so hot, and for so long I've not done that. I would just really get a something that's made for that, because I don't know if it's gonna work right to seal the jar like it needs to be sealed, and give the kind of heat that it needs to seal that jar. I mean, that pressure cooker is creating so much pressure, and those are just probably made to pressurize and cook and tenderize food rather than to seal a jar. So, I mean, I would try to invest in or find somebody that got one. So if something happened, y'all can kind of, uh, uh, you know, carry or support one another, and they'll let you use theirs or whatever, and you share some food, work something out. If you don't want to invest in it, but if you can invest in it, I would suggest investing in it. But something that's not made for that, I wouldn't trust it to do what it's supposed to do.
And then too, with those instant pots or whatever, good thing is hopefully you've kept the directions, and so you can see all you can do under the pressure cook option. So I'd say refer to that also.
Yeah, if it say cans on there, then that will mean it had the capacity to do it. But if it don't say cans, I wouldn't trust it.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I'll charge.
uh, Let me ask this one before. Can you do a solar generator to the fuse box as well? I think you can.
Solar generator, I believe so. I believe so, because I was going to invest in one of those. I hadn't done that, but they ought to have some kind of plug where it connects to it. But you do got to make sure or see what plugs that solar generator is going to need, and then see if it's one that can be hooked up. See, my generator is a gas generator, so those are going to be a little bit stronger. If you can get a solar generator that's going to be able to because usually the people that I know with solar generators, my father-in-law, he was going to get him one. I don't know if he got it or not, but it only power so much. He wanted to get it to keep his refrigerators cool or keep them going. So with a solar generator power the whole house, I hadn't thoroughly researched one that's able to do that. I've seen some pretty strong ones because I'm looking at getting one just for like what he was looking at it. But that's something you really have to look into because I don't have a solar generator just yet.
Yeah, I thought about solar energy too as something going forward. So maybe I'll look into it. Last
Yeah.
question. Oh, okay. What type of gas do you have stored? You said non-ethanol gas with stabilizer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is a good start. This is a good start. Um, and I just wanted to do this publicly because I mean this is good information for everybody to have. Of course, we do more on the Defenders Patreon, particularly for men, with more things coming up. I really plan to invest more in the virtual aspect of Defenders. So I really want to encourage you all, if you're a man on here, or if you know a man, share the Defenders information with them. Encourage them to join the Patreon. Um, there's just great, useful information on there, and more will be coming for every dimension of a man's life. I'm glad this was helpful. I am glad this was helpful. Um, I want to encourage you, if you are able to, as you know, anytime I come on, I'm going to talk about this campaign. So if you are able to on tonight, uh, would you please sow into the campaign? I'm putting the given information at the bottom of your screen because it is a plan to preserve people. Defenders is part of it. Defenders is part of it. So the campaign helps fund Defenders. The campaign helps fund what we're trying to do in Houston and in these other cities. We have a plan to sustain people. And however, there is seed that we believe that God wants people to contribute. So we have the seed of man. We believe in God for 1,000,000 men, but also $1,000,000. So if you are able to give something towards this campaign, please do. The given information is in the chat on YouTube, and it should also be on Facebook. Also, I'm going to repost it on Facebook. I really want to encourage you, if you're able to, even if it's just $1, give to the campaign, and then type in when you give. If it's not on the website, please make sure you put it's for the campaign. That is for the campaign. Did everybody understand? Does all of this make sense? All minds clear? All minds clear? All minds clear? Let me see in the chat. We have an understanding. Everything good? Was this helpful? Was this helpful? Was it helpful? Okay, good. Good. Somebody says they're going to start this weekend. Great, 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 great. Godspeed on that. I pray that that it goes well. I pray that it goes well. Thank you all for coming on again. I do want to encourage you, give to the campaign, sow into it tonight, please. I'm going to continue to ask that. I've been also asking people with deep pockets, and so I'm not just asking y'all. So we have a plan to preserve people and regions. So God bless you. To those who have given and who will give, thank you in the name of Yeshua. Also, if you are a man looking to Defenders, check out the website. And if you feel like it's something for you, do join us on Patreon. Thank you, Brother Terrence. Thank you, Sister Marsha, for being the off-screen help. Also, God bless you, man. Was there anything that you wanted to, any last words, closing remarks, rather, that you want to say?
Like I said, just all in all, like I said, we know our source. We know, and we're hearing and we're knowing the days that we're living in, and the days ahead, are going to be, a little bit more challenging than what we're used to. And so, just knowing that as long as we stay close to the master, as long as we or seeking him first in the kingdom. Everything else, and all of his righteousness, he'll add everything to us. But it's good to know and understand, that you want to be self sufficient. You want to be, independent. You don't want to be in a line somewhere up the road. I believe that he's waking up many that he's gifted to enable them to help his people, in the tough times that we're going into. So just, consider it, take it seriously. I wouldn't say panic, but trust God in the days going ahead. Don't panic. Don't be fearful. It's a lot of stuff out there. You get the prophetic here. You're used to the prophetic, but be cautious of so many other voices out there, because some people are echoing all kind of other stuff and
Yep.
perpetuating fear,
Yeah.
and perpetuating all kind of stuff and don't know what they're talking about. God got his people in the midst of what's going on, and he's raising people to help his people. He's going to sustain his people through the days ahead. So just trust God. Use this time, just like my brother was saying, to store up on oil. This is the time to store up on oil, to buy for those that sell. Like the wise virgins told the foolish ones. They waited till the last minute. Don't be scrounging at the last minute and
Don't do it.
scrambling. Now is the time. So seek the Lord, or whatever he's putting in your heart to do. If he's saying to take precautions and to do this stuff, and that's where he's leading you, I believe this is where he's leading many of his people. Just heed the voice, heed the leading of the Spirit, and do what you need to do in the season. Don't sleep on it, because suddenly, when the stuff comes upon the land, suddenly you don't want to be the five foolish, and you're scrambling at the last minute and you're not ready. So,
And those were good closing remarks, because again, with all the prophetic words that God's given me on just the YouTube and the Facebook, hopefully those who have been listening, you should feel like you're very well prepared. And the big thing has been staying close to the Lord. And he's given us a promise that as we stay close to him and prepare, that he's going to cause us to get healthier and healthier, wealthier and wealthier, stronger and stronger. And it's going to be for his glory. They're going to know that the God of Israel is even here in the United States of America. And he wants to use us to show that off, as Joseph, as Daniel's. And so stay close to the Lord. Thank you, Brother Terrence, again tonight. God bless all of you again. Y'all check out Defenders. If you're a man, or if you know a man, check out Defenders. And if you're able to, sow into the campaign. God bless you. Thank you all. You're getting a lot of thank yous. Thank you, men of God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Terrence. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Have a good night, you all. God bless.